Hey everyone, how's everyone doing out there in Final Cut Pro land this today? My name's Richard Taylor, and we are going to, let me see what's going on. We're going to be talking about Final Cut Pro, the latest Final Cut Pro news. Let's see, Final Cut Pro, yeah, there we go. Everything's looking good there. It's pretty cold on the east coast of the good old USA. Where are there we go, comments. Justine, our friend from South Africa, says, very cold, damp South Africa. Happy to report Cormel is back up and running. Thanks for the help. Yeah, the website was down. I checked with Roger Bolton about it, and he said it was just one of those little flukes. So, east coast of the USA, we're doing pretty good here. It is cold. I got the fireplace running out there, so. Fireplace heats up. It's actually a fireplace. It's a wood-burning stove that I have. It's heated up it heats up internally to about 1,200 degrees, 1,500 degrees sometimes. Keeps the place nice and warm. I have a brick rancher, an all-brick rancher built into the 1960s. So anyway, we're going to talk a lot about NAB today. As much as we know, things are still evolving. But the good news is there is Final Cut Pro activity at NAB this year. And not just from one source, it seems. It seems, from what I can gather, it's happening from multiple sources, not just one singular event. It seems like it's going to be more spread out, Final Cut Pro events, related events and stuff. Now, we know, of course, that, let me pull this up here. We know, of course, that Frame.io is going to have a Final Cut Pro panel or two. They always do. But there's an announcement. Comedian Jim Gaffigan to headline the new NAB show Sunday Kickoff. He's coming on Sunday night. I've seen a few of his specials on Netflix. I enjoy his stuff. So Final Cut Pro was introduced to the world almost 9 years ago at the NAB 2011 Super Meet. I don't know if you all remember that event. I was sleeping. It was later, but I remember that night. That's when it was actually introduced to the world. So 9 years ago, this NAB will be when Final Cut Pro was introduced, was let out on us. Everybody got to see a sneak peek of it at that point. It wasn't actually for sale until June of that year. So what's going on with NAB? Of course, you all know the nouveau coronavirus may affect attendance at NAB. You know, it's not going to help attendance in any way. That's for sure. So the only thing that it might do, they might kind of remain the same, or it might bring the attendance down a little bit. Hello from Cyprus. How you doing? What's the weather like out there in Cyprus? So anyway, I wrote this article. Let me see. I wrote this article on February the 20th, FCPX.TV, all things Final Cut Pro. And I talked about the possibility of there being a Final Cut Pro presence at NAB. You can find it. You can find the article at FCPX.TV. I'm going to keep updating this article as we get more and more information about NAB and Final Cut Pro related things. So we got another comment here. Emil says, hi, Richard. How you doing? I'm going to just put this over there, switch these things around. I got palettes all over the place on my screen right now. So there's some interesting things that have happened. First off, let's talk about one of the events at the NAB, which is a traditional event that's been here for years. Although it wasn't here last year, it is here. It is coming back again, and that's the Super Meet. So their theme is everyone is a broadcaster. Super Meet 2020's theme. You can find them at supermeets.com. However, what was interesting is they have cut the stage time in half this year. This year, we've halved the stage portion of Super Meet 2020 to be shorter and more succinct. Why? To allow for extended networking time with fellow creators, vendors, and special guests. Although they will conclude with the largest Super Meet raffle yet, filled with tens of thousands of dollars in digital filmmaking, content creator-related prizes. So that's certainly good. Tomas says, hello, how you doing? Everybody. We got some interesting things that are happening at NAB. The, Final Cut Pro related. I'm not going to go over all the things that are happening at NAB itself, but I'm getting credible information from different places that Final Cut Pro presence at NAB. So I don't see anything listed at the Super Meet. They don't really have their agenda up yet. But they are happening. It's a Tuesday, April 21st. And the good thing is it's the next stop up from the convention center, from the Las Vegas Convention Center on the monorail. That's what it's called. If you've never been to Las Vegas monorail, it's a driverless system. It doesn't have any driver. It's like something from the future. There's no driver. The cars just go back and forth, then back and forth and stop. They don't go that fast. So where is it at? The place is Westlake, Las Vegas Resort and Casino. And that is right up from the Las Vegas Convention Center. It's actually the next stop up. So this is good because I won't have to worry about getting Ubers and stuff late at night. I can stay a little bit later. I can just take the monorail back to my hotel. Tomas says, fine. Any news about FCPX? News as far as the application itself, no. Although, let's just check. Let's check this. There we go. Let's check this. So over there at FCPRadio.com, I have a countdown. And right now, Final Cut Pro 10.4 is 2 years, 2 months, and 15 days old at this point. 2 years, 2 months, 15 days. I keep a record up here at FCPRadio.com. And also I want to make sure the latest Final Cut Pro Radio episode just came out. Final Cut Pro Radio episode 101 with Luma Touches, Terry, and Chris. They talk all about the LumaFusion update with FCPXML export.
I think you're going to be excited by what we bring to anybody.
Well, the Final Cut Pro community thanks you for that.
It is pure Final Cut XML.
When are you going to have Final Cut Pro 7 export?
We're going to get it out when it's done.
So you can find that at your iTunes podcast aggregator, whichever you'd like, whichever one you use. I use iTunes. You know, iTunes just announced, somebody announced it. Let me straighten this out. Let me see what's going on here. Somebody just announced that there's over 900,000 podcasts, almost 1 million podcasts. When I first started podcasting 15 years ago, there's 10,000, maybe 15,000. That's when I started. Now there's almost 1 million. One of the things about podcasting is this. It's easy to start a podcast. What's hard is to keep the podcast going month after month, year after year. Starting one's not a problem. Start one. But when they have this thing called pod fading, where people will start podcasts and then they'll do less episodes and less episodes and less episodes. And then before you know it, there's no episodes coming, new episodes at all. So starting a podcast is easy. Keeping it going is quite a task. I've been doing it for 15 years, podcasting. I have 2 podcasts. Final Cut Pro Radio is one of them. But anyway, 900,000 podcasts going on. So as far as Final Cut Pro, there's no news. I mean, we had the update, the 10.4.8 update in December, which was a bug fix. We had the 10.4.7 update last October, I think October the 6th. So almost 5 months ago, 4 months ago, we had that one. That was the Metal 2 update. And since then, 2019 was a pretty boring year for Final Cut Pro 10. It was very boring. Even though Metal was a lot of work, I understand that. As far as the end user, there's nothing really exciting happening. Everything under the hood, yes, that's fine. Those things are important. But there's been no excitement in 2019 as far as I'm concerned. Pretty boring year. So I'm hoping 2020 proves to be a lot more exciting. And they could put out 10.4.9 at any point, but they could go right to 10.5. That would make a lot of sense. So I did the article over there. And what I talk about is the possibility. What I talk about is that if they're going to put out 10.5, doing it around NAB makes perfect sense. I don't know when 10.5 is coming out. Obviously, it's happening in 2020. I mean, that would be ridiculous if they didn't have 10.5 out in 2020. But if they're going to put it out anytime in the spring, it seems like NAB would be the time to put it out. But even though, so I certainly expect there will be presence at the Frame.io booth at NAB, of course. Even though we don't know when 10.5 is coming out, if it's coming out around NAB or not, don't know for a fact. So Pauline says, with the discontinuation of Final Cut Pro training, very interesting. And as for a new replacement, no news yet. So yeah, they stopped Apple training, which is a separate department. It's nothing to do with Final Cut Pro team. They've announced that they're putting Final Cut Pro 10.4 training out of commission. They call it retiring at the end of June, and there's nothing to replace it yet. So Emil says, I guess Apple is still very busy collecting all the pro user feedback on the 2019 Mac Pro Catalina and FCPX. There was a lot of moving parts that came together last fall. You had the Mac Pro. You had the Metal 2 update. You had Catalina, which was causing problems. All those things are like this. I know at the summit it was a little confusing exactly what was going on. There was no update to Final Cut Pro, so a bunch of different things happened in the fall that seemed to maybe mess up the schedule of updating Final Cut Pro 10. Now, hopefully that's been resolved. Patrick Southern, our friend, says, nice background. I'll bring it to NAB with me, Patrick. Put it in my room. I got to talk a little bit about Patrick Southern and what he's doing at NAB, some of the things he's involved with. Of course, Patrick is now with Frame.io, and I do expect some Frame.io Final Cut Pro presentations. Last year was the only real place you could get anything with latest Final Cut Pro. This year, there's more Final Cut Pro stuff happening. Different places are having different things, and some of the things that I am privy to, I can't talk about yet, but there's multiple, it seems, there's multiple places that there's going to be Final Cut Pro stuff, more than just the Frame.io booth, which is one of the main ones that was there last year. So that's really cool. But that doesn't mean, I don't know what that means. I don't know what it means. I just know there's going to be more Final Cut Pro activity in NAB this year than there was last year. So that's good because it's been, like I said, been kind of a boring year. Patrick Southern says, can't wait for R3D on metal. So Patrick, exactly, that's the Red 3D, especially on the Mac Pro. Patrick has a Mac Pro. Yeah, especially on the Mac Pro. But the Mac Pro, I got a Mac Pro. I know Patrick's got one. Patrick says, not sure of our lineup. Will be on stage it. Hopefully interesting stuff. It always is interesting. You have a very wide variety of nice post-production and production people talking there. Well, first off, look, you got Michael Cioni. So he's going to be talking there, I'm sure. And I saw that he was looking for an executive assistant. I forget where I saw that. It was on Facebook, I think, on his Facebook page. I don't know if he's got one yet. So I'll be stopping in there. The Frame.io booth is just right around the corner from Black Magic. You come in the bottom of the South Hall, and Black Magic is right there, gigantic. And then right around the corner from that on the right-hand side is the Frame.io booth. And while we got Patrick here, so let's talk a little bit about Patrick and what's going on with him that we know so far. So Patrick has a movie out called Faith-Based, which is a comedy. It has George from Seinfeld in it and some other people. And he's going to be probably talking about that, I imagine, at NAB. And the workflow for that. Patrick, did you use... what kind of hardware did you use to do that as far as editing? Patrick Southern says, not yet. People should still apply for that position. So if you want to be Michael Cioni's, I think, executive assistant, but he's going to expect a lot out of you if you are. He wants you to be smarter than he is. That's a tall task, for sure. So Patrick says, indeed, he will be talking about his workflow, and he says he used an iMac Pro for that, for faith-based. So that'll be very cool to hear that. I'm not sure exactly what is going on with NAB. I mean, everybody knows about, and the jellyfish, he says. There you go, jellyfish, the infamous jellyfish. Not the infamous, the famous jellyfish. Absolutely. MacBook Pro and the jellyfish. I still haven't got my hands on a jellyfish yet, but I think I will one of these days. I work by myself. I have two studios, one upstairs and one downstairs. So people that are going to NAB, how many of you are going? I know Patrick's going. I'll be going as of right now. Hopefully there's no changes in that. I know everybody's concerned about the coronavirus, but NAB is pretty big. Some other events have been canceled. Facebook canceled their event, but that event is only, I think it was 5,000. NAB is 80,000, 100,000, who the heck knows. I'm not going to be overly concerned about it unless it shows up that it's, something to be more concerned. The problem is that things get perhaps blown out of proportion a little bit. But I'm not saying it's not serious. I think it's very serious, but we'll have to see how that goes. So one of the other interesting things, there's a couple of interesting things. Everybody knows I have a iPhone 11 Pro. So this was interesting when I saw this. Okay, let me see. This is interesting when I saw this. Let me see if I can pull that up. Here we go. Lady Gaga filmed her entire new video. I'm going to turn that down so I don't get any kind of a music strike. But she filmed her entire music video with an iPhone 11 Pro. That's all it was used. She made the announcement. Let me pull that back up there. She made the announcement, shot entirely on the iPhone 11 Pro. Now, she can afford any camera, any crew that she wants. So she shot that video, the newest video, on an iPhone 11 Pro. It's amazing. I mean, it's an amazing camera. I use this all the time. Everywhere I go, I take this out now. So I'll be curious what Apple does in the fall with the new version. Does that surprise you that she filmed everything with an iPhone 11 Pro? It surprised me. It really did. So let me see here. What else do we have? Countdown, Super Meets. Let me see if there's anything else on the Super Meet side. I don't think they've made an announcement of what's going to be on stage yet. And I just heard from Sam Messman, and him and I have been talking about some things that are happening at the Super Meet. And he said that I asked him what I can say and what I can't say. He said, just say there's going to be some announcements soon. Some announcements soon. What Sam is going to be up to. He's, of course, with We Make Movies. And so I know he's involved a lot with educational stuff, teaching kids how to do video editing and stuff. So he says there'll be an announcement soon on what's going on with him at the Super Meet. I mean, at NAB, I'm sorry. We were discussing some things yesterday, which are quite interesting. But I'll wait for him to make that official announcement. Of course, Sam is a big, big Final Cut Pro proponent, always has been. So what else we got going? So how many of you are going to to NAB? Anybody going to that? If you want to go to Super Meet, you have to buy tickets. I think they're $10. If you're a student, they're a little less. They have all kind of prizes. Let me see something here with Future Media Concepts. What are they doing? Conference recording, Vlog University, After Effects. Let me just see. Creative Summit recording. Oh, these are the recordings. Oh, that's interesting. Conferences. Let me see what's going on there. Upcoming conferences. Post-production world. Oh, no, that link's no good. What about here? Same thing there. They got to fix that link. There's the Super Meet. I know they're involved with that. I know that link works. Yeah, that link works. Let me see if I make one of their links work on this site, FMC. Let's see what's going on there. Conferences, upcoming conferences. This is the same place. Education. Let's see what's going on education-wise. So Future Media Concepts is doing in-depth training and workshop for professionals. And it's on-site, South Hall, and it's also going to be off-site. That's interesting. I don't know. They have a schedule for NAB. Browse featured sessions. Let me just see what's going on there. I think, let me just look in View and Planner. I'm not sure how many, no, that's there. I'm not sure how many sessions they're having this year. I know they teach a lot of Premiere at these events. Coco says, hi, I am going. Coco, make sure you say hi. I'll be around different places, mostly Final Cut Pro related places. Pauline says, edited on what? Avid Audio Pro Tools? I doubt it was within 100 miles of an Apple computer. I think it probably was an Apple computer. Why not? She does the iPhone. Why wouldn't the company use an Apple computer? Avid runs on Apple. So does Pro Tools. They're probably more popular than anything else, especially the Mac Pro, right? So anyway, what we know about NAB and Final Cut Pro is there's going to be a Final Cut Pro presence multiple places at NAB. As we get closer to NAB, I'll be able to talk more about specifics. Right now, some things are not finalized. That's one of the reasons I can't really talk about it. But there's going to be, going to be a lot of Final Cut Pro presence this year at NAB. Now, I don't know what that means. Jean-Baptiste says, hello, Richard. How you doing, Jean? So I'm not sure, look, 10.5, Final Cut Pro 10.5 certainly is going to come out in 2020. Certainly. Okay? 10.4 is 26 months old, 26 and a half months old at this point. If they're going to release it in the spring, doesn't it make sense to do it at NAB? They get more attention there. The Final Cut Pro team does in general, because NAB reaches more than just people that are using Final Cut Pro 10. It reaches all kinds of other people, maybe people that are just looking for something to start editing with. So we'll see how that works out. If they're going to release it, say they're going to release it, March is Monday. If they're going to release it in March or April, that will be something that people can talk about and discuss at NAB. It doesn't really make sense for them to release it in May, unless they're going to preview something at NAB. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, but we got to see 10.5 in 2020, so it makes perfect sense. I doubt if they're going to release it in August. They could, but I doubt it. They could release it in June for the anniversary, for the 9-year anniversary of Final Cut Pro 10. We'll have to see. But there are things happening at Final Cut Pro, with Final Cut Pro at NAB. What they are exactly, we'll have to just wait for the specifics, but there's a lot more happening this year than there was last year. Any of you a Lady Gaga fan? I couldn't name a single one of her songs. I just thought that was interesting. Coco says, why doesn't Apple listen to you, Richard? I agree. They should. They should listen to me. Release Final Cut Pro 10.5 or preview it at NAB. At NAB, Final Cut Pro 10.4 will be 28 months old. 28 months since we had a full number update. That's a long time. Normally it's 14 months or 16 months between full number updates. There's something going on. Doesn't it seem like something's going on with 10.5? It's taking so long. Something's going on. I'm curious. Of course, we'll probably never know what's taking so long, but maybe we will. Maybe when we see 10.5, we'll all just go, wow, this is really worth waiting for. Well, I hope it's worth waiting for. You know, to be honest with you, 2019 was very boring for Final Cut Pro 10, but here's the thing. I am more excited about LumaFusion than I am Final Cut Pro 10 at this point. I think LumaFusion is a fantastic, fantastic NLE, even though it is an iPad-only NLE at this point. It's got so many features. It's got features that I wish Final Cut Pro 10 had. Number one, you can lock a track. Number two, it's got a little teeny mixing system, a small mixing board system. I'm not saying that Final Cut Pro 10 needs a mixing board, but Final Cut Pro 10 needs better audio. You can color code clips with LumaFusion. You can actually select a clip, choose a color for it. Suppose you wanted all your interview clips to be red. So you select your interview clips, you color code them red. In the browser, you can search for the color red, and all those clips will come up. You can search for colors. If you guys have ever seen Final Cut Pro editors use emojis to sort in the browser, they put bananas and they put apples and maybe an orange or something at the first part of the name for the browser. And what that is visual distinction. You can look at things and you can distinguish them by color. Not by the emoji. It's by color. It's the color yellow. It's the color green. It's the color red. Visually, you can sort things by color quickly. You can sort them. That's why people are using the emojis. If the emojis were all gray, they're useless. They're useless. It's all about color, sorting by color. When I work with Logic Pro for my audio, almost all my audio, anything that's important, and I color code clips. If I'm doing an interview, like in Final Cut Pro Radio, I'll select a group of clips and say, okay, this is Patrick Southern, his section talking. Then I'll select another section. This is when I'm talking, and I can visually look at the timeline instantly and see where everything's located by color. Don't have to read names. I just look for color. So that's another thing I wish that Final Cut Pro had that LumaFusion has. LumaFusion's the most exciting NLE to me at this point. It's got to the point where I am looking at getting a new iPad only because of LumaFusion. I have an iPad. I've been buying them over the years. Every 2 or 3 years, I'll buy one. But I really don't use it that much. I use it for reading at night. Or I take it with me for if I'm traveling and don't want to take a laptop. But this time I'm looking for the new iPad when it comes out, specifically to start working with LumaFusion. It's a very, very exciting NLE on the iPad. Luma-touch.com. They're on the latest version of Final Cut Pro Radio, as we talked about earlier. Terry and Chris. So Jean-Baptiste says the only issue with LumaFusion is codec does not support ProRes. I think it does support ProRes. If the iPad supports ProRes, LumaFusion supports ProRes. It's not a LumaFusion thing. It's the iPad itself. So if the iPad can play back ProRes, LumaFusion can work with it. I even talked to them about ProRes RAW. But anyway, the new version of LumaFusion has FCPX ML export. Let me just check that out. He says the iPad does not. Let me just check that. I'm not sure if that's true, but you may be right. Let me see. Capacities, buttons and connectors. See, overview. Tech specs, let's see. I thought it did play ProRes. Let me just check this out. So it says video formats captured HEVC and H.264. These are the recording specifications. I guess that's what it does. Locational models, sensors. Okay, it doesn't say anything about ProRes specifically, but it said, let me see what this says. So it says, this one says, Apple at this time has not announced any plans on supporting ProRes on the iPad. So that is not, that's September 9th, 2019. So that is not a limitation of LumaFusion. That's a limitation of the iPad itself. But don't think it's not coming. I would be surprised if it doesn't show up at some point. So one other thing I want to talk about real quick. Let me see, is that there? Oh, let me pull this up. Oh, this is what I want. So, our friends over there at Ripple Training have a new plugin, and I highly recommend it. Look, it's $19 for a couple more days. After that, it's going to be $29. So, dynamic zooms and pans made easy. It's a lot, you know, the interesting thing is, it's a lot more.
In the middle of a video clip in Final Cut Pro 10, but found the Ken Burns effect frustrating to use.
So the interesting thing is it's a lot more than just punch in, but for $20, it's on sale for $20. Go to rippletraining.com. This one is not in FX Factory like a lot of their other plugins are. This one's because it's so inexpensive, $19. Anyway, I bought it. I like it. I always say I'd rather pay Mark Spencer $20, $30 to do a plugin than me learn Motion, that's for sure. So anyway, I'm going to finish up here. There is absolutely going to be Final Cut Pro centric activity at NAB this year. We'll know more as we get closer to NAB. Well, it's going to be March on Monday. We'll know more exactly what's going on, but there is going to be Final Cut Pro activity at NAB. And that's good because last year was like very, very boring. Ben Housel says, have a great weekend. Same to you, Ben. Ben's a member of FCPX Tips and Tricks, one of my Facebook groups we have. And another one of our Facebook groups, let me pull that up. Where the heck is that? Another one of our Facebook groups is, we have a Facebook group for Final Cut Pro. Let me see. For Final Cut Pro, no, not for Final Cut Pro, for Mac Pro. We have a 2019 Mac Pro group. We talk about 2019 Mac Pro. Look at that. We're on there. Look at that. Pulled it right up. There we are live on the 2019 Mac Pro. Here's another article about the Mac Pro for VXF Pros. Nicely written. One of the things about the Mac Pro, if you have it on your desk, I have mine on my desk right here, don't get the wheels. The wheels don't have any locks, and the desk is tilted at all, it'll roll right off your desk. Those wheels are meant for the floor underneath of your desk. I have a standing desk that I'm on now. It's like an L-shaped, and it's motorized, and it goes up and down and stuff. But my Mac Pro is it's to my right, your left, and it sits there and it's completely quiet. Oh, here's an interesting thing. So the Mac Pro keyboard, one of the things we discussed, your Magic keyboard with numeric keypad for the optional Magic Trackpad 2 behave like a wired keyboard and pointing device when connected using the included USB to Lightning to USB-C cable. Bluetooth isn't used and all communication is over the cable. So if you plug the charging cable in, it behaves like a wired keyboard and a wired trackpad. So anyway, that's going to be it for today. My name is Richard Taylor. I'm intending at this point to go to NAB, and if I do, I will be reporting live. Last year when I was at NAB, I did a lot of live streaming. When I came back, I think I had 15,000 views of all the different live streams that I have. When I get there, once I settle down, I'll do one. I'll do one every 2 or 3 times a day. In the morning when I get up, I'll do one. When I come back at night, I'll do one. In the middle of the day, I'll do one. Just to let you experience the people that can't make it there. Let your people experience actually being there. It'll be an exciting time this time. I have a much better system this year than I've had in the past. Enjoy your weekend, Jean Baptiste. Enjoy yours too. It's Friday. Finally, it's here. I'm going to get off here and get something to eat for lunch. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. I think we've covered just about everything. Visit FCPRadio.com and the latest episode, I just put it up yesterday with the fine folks, Chris and Terry from Luma-Touch, talking all about the new version of LumaFusion 2.2 that has FCP XML export. So you can edit on the train, do basic cuts, whatever you want to do. And when you're done, you can have an option. It's a $19.99 option. They put a lot of work in. They've been working on this for over a year. And you can export right to XML, right to Final Cut Pro. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Emil. Fred Rose III. Have a great weekend. Listen, everybody, I'll come back on here whenever there's news. It's been a completely quiet month, hasn't it, February? It's like nothing's going on Final Cut Pro-wise. That's why I wanted to come on here and just talk. I haven't been on for 10 days. So whenever there's any breaking news, I will make sure I get on right away. Just follow along all of my social media accounts, YouTube, Facebook. What else do I have? I don't have Twitch, but I have Periscope, Instagram. It's all Richard Taylor TV, all one word. That's the way. Oh, Twitter is the other one, of course. We have some interesting discussions on Twitter the other day. Let me just check and make sure nothing's going on Twitter that I don't know about. Just checking real quick and see. So don't see anything specifically. So let's see if anything shows up. Our friend Ben, he has cleanup voiceovers on his YouTube channel, Ben Househall. Cleanup voiceovers in Final Cut Pro with 2 awesome plugins from Crumble Pop. Oh, that's probably the echo remover and one of the other ones. I have one of those. Nothing else really going on. Support the people that support Final Cut Pro. We will have more news probably next week, but once again, anything that breaks, any breaking news, I will come on YouTube, Facebook, and we will talk about it. Thanks, everybody, for stopping by. My name is Richard Taylor. Visit FCPRadio.com. On Twitter, Richard Taylor TV. YouTube, Richard Taylor TV. Facebook, Richard Taylor TV. But don't make a friend request. Just follow there. Facebook is not Final Cut Pro related, my Facebook account. It's more local community stuff. I do a little bit of Final Cut Pro stuff, but not much. It's not a Final Cut Pro related an account, and I do a lot of animal rescue stuff, and if I find something I find funny, I'll put it up there. So that one, just follow me. If you're going to use Facebook, just follow. You don't need permission to do that, but you can subscribe over at YouTube, Richard Taylor TV, subscribe on Periscope, and of course on Twitter. Thanks everybody for stopping in. Coco, make sure you say hi at NAB, so I like to meet people that we talk to online, because I don't get to do that often. Thanks a lot, everybody. I'll talk to you the next time I'm live.